leaders, welcome. Welcome to the Savvy Leader Podcast. I am absolutely thrilled you've chosen to tune in. I'm your host, Kristen Gallatin. In this week's episode, we'll be pulling an excerpt from my audio journal and diving deep into something that affects us all. That, my friends, is fear. Yes, fear. We often categorize fear responses into four main types. So we have fight. This is when we feel so afraid that our body prepares for battle. Our amygdala springs into action, our hair might stand on end, and our heart begins to race, redirecting blood to our limbs and readying us to punch or kick. It's an automatic primal response, some refer to as the reptilian brain. Another one is flight. This is when your body gets ready to run. You see a bear, you run. Simple. Unlike a T-Rex, where you might freeze hoping they won't see you because their eyes are motion activated, as so we learned from Jurassic Park. With a bear, your instinct is to flee. You turn, you run, that is it. Another one is freeze. So think of that T-Rex. Could you hold perfectly still, hoping it wouldn't notice you? Sometimes our brains get so overwhelmed and stunned by events that we don't know how to respond, and we simply freeze. It's true. The newest recognized fear response, though, is called fawn. Imagine an abusive relationship where someone is too afraid to leave despite being mistreated. They continue to be obedient and submissive, disregarding their own safety because they might believe that they're doing it to keep the peace. They're doing it to save themselves from further abuse or even to protect someone else from the same abuse. It's a horrible, horrible situation. Now, what if there was a fifth response, though? Something we would build over time. I believe there actually is another response to fear, and though it's not an automatic, immediate one like the others, it's still something that could become automatic over time. After you cultivate and generate this. Fear is similar to stress and anxiety. They often elicit very similar bodily responses that aren't always easily differentiated. What I'd like to do is share some personal experiences with you that led me to discover what I fondly refer to as the effort factor. You heard it right. It's the effort factor on this very family-friendly podcast show. So, let's jump right in. In my youth, I was a bit of a troublemaker. Okay, I admit. Ambitious, incredibly independent. I did what I wanted, and that's not unlike the adult version of me. But I also felt, for some reason, that I had something to prove to the world. That I was stronger or faster, and that I could handle anything. You know, as a teenager, you just don't really think about whether you should or even need to do certain things. And my friends and I used to go to a popular spot on a river with giant peaks where we would cliff dive. That is right. Everyone did it every weekend. It was the thing to do in the 80s when we were bored. And there was simply nothing else to do but potentially threaten our lives by jumping hundreds of feet into a river, risking cracked skulls, bodily harm, or even death. Fortunately, none of us were harmed. Whew. Though we heard plenty of stories. Well, one day I was there. I was standing on the edge with a group A couple of people had already dove in, and I was ready. So I jumped. The first thing I noticed after hitting the water was that it didn't actually hurt as much as I thought it would, but I was thrust so deeply into that water that when I finally stopped going down and started working my way back up, it took way longer than I expected. I could see the light up there, but I couldn't tell how far away the surface actually was. I started to panic. I wondered if I'd have enough air, or how much longer it could possibly take, and then, of course, I did finally reach the surface. Took a big breath, and the very first thought in my mind, one and done, baby. I'm good. There is no need for me to do that again. All I got out of it was a panic attack and a massive wedgie. Thank you. But when you find yourself facing your fears, I encourage you to dive in. Check it out. Swim around a little while. Just see what happens, and if you come out basically unscathed, you can decide whether or not that's a fear that you need to conquer. You get to choose. That is absolutely your right. My next story took place on a family vacation in Colorado, and I was determined to conquer my fear of heights. Absolutely determined, I say, which meant that I would be buying myself a ticket on the Royal Gorge Skycoaster. And at the time, this place was advertised as the most extreme thrill ride in the world. Yes, the world. And let me tell you, it was pretty scary from what I saw before. Well, I was so committed that I paid what felt like thousands of dollars for myself and every member of my family to ride this sky coaster. Why? Because I was going to conquer my fears, damn it, and that was all there was to say about that. So, my daughter, my husband, and I got strapped into the harness that would stretch us far above the gorge and then slingshot us out over it. Okay. As I started to realize just how far up we were going and the base of the gorge came into my purview, my legs turned to jello. My stomach churned. I felt dizzy. And what did I do then? Well, I closed my eyes. That's what. I suppose this could be translated into that fawn response where I just endured the ride. No screaming, no yelling, no making them stop. I closed my eyes and endured. And when it was over, right then and right there, I decided I'm done with this crap. I don't like heights. They don't like me. I don't know why my body behaves this way whenever there's even a photograph or I'm watching a movie with a harrowing skyscraper scene. I don't know, but it does. So I decided to take that as a sign to keep my feet firmly on the ground. I decided this heights business wasn't consuming my life anymore. I certainly wasn't missing out on the wonders of the world by not taking thrill rides up into space or on epic peaks. This wasn't serving me in any way, and it wasn't going to serve me in my future, so why not let it go? Just let it go. What I realized from this experience is that you are enough, just as you are. And while it's important to challenge ourselves and grow, we don't need to challenge everything. Some fears simply aren't serving us. And letting them go can be its own form of liberation. You don't have to prove your bravery by conquering every single fear out there. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to acknowledge your limits and choose a less popular path that truly aligns with your well-being. This brings me to life experience number 3. During my corporate gig, I found myself doing a lot of training and coaching, both for groups and individuals. I was always in some type of leadership role, whether I was training new associates, entire groups, stores, technology enhancements, changes. I did a lot of that, and looking back, I really enjoyed it. I created the training materials and the classes the way I liked because, well, I'm a trailblazer and I like to do things my way, absolutely. During that time, though, I distinctly remember when I was ready to leave my fear of public speaking in the rear view. You see, I have always been an advocate for efficiency, so wasting my time, or anyone else's for that matter, was simply not an option. It wasn't even on my radar. I thought to myself, you know what? You can either stand up in front of this group of people and stutter and read the same information that they have right in front of them, or you can get over yourself, have some respect for their time, and do a better job. That's what I did, because we've all had to sit through and endure poor presentations, sometimes, you guys, entire days of them. My extreme distaste for wasting time outweighed my fear. What a revelation that was. The switch was flipped once and for all. And once I recognized that, I fully embraced it and I never looked back. Moving forward from there and leaving this fear behind really allowed me the freedom to develop my classes the way I wanted them to be. I tweaked the materials just a little bit so I could let my personality show and respond to the audience to help them get the most out of their time with me. It was huge. This experience taught me a profound truth about presenting and engaging with others. The content is always more important than the speaker. When you pull all of your energy into delivering amazing content that is engaging and truly valuable, your audience will forever remember you for that impact. Your nervousness, your self-consciousness, they fade into the background when your focus is entirely on serving your audience and providing them with an unforgettable experience. All right. That is what I know about the past. More recently, though, I really honed in on how we respond to extreme situations that put us in peak stress and fear over longer periods of time. Those 4 main fear responses we talked about are immediate and quick. But we all know that quite often, fear and stressful situations can extend beyond that short time frame. When it comes to the overcoming part and the effort factor, that one took a little longer for me to learn, but it became glaringly obvious when an extreme situation happened in my life and I needed to be everything to everyone all of the time. I recognize that when you get to the point where the stress and the fear are so great that the feelings extend beyond your person, you actually stop feeling the feels of stress and fear. Your heart doesn't race so much and your stomach doesn't churn at the terrible news you've just received, and you find yourself moving forward with a few less inhibitions. You'll have more reasoning, practicality, and even decisiveness. You'll also probably won't put as much thought into maybe your appearance or, dare I say, the words that may come out of your mouth. But you will start to feel a sense of freedom that you didn't know was within you until you were pushed to that brink. You don't know how much you have in you until you find out just how much. Of course, I am not advocating that everyone endure long periods of this kind of fear. That would be terrible. What I am advocating for is that we take a moment to ask ourselves some real, honest questions. Like, who or what exactly am I serving? Why am I getting out of bed every day? Who or what is on my mind all of the time? If the answers to this question sound something like money, recognition, pride, self-worth, or even avoiding fear itself, then it's time to start working through the process of finding an inner strength that has the courage to allow you to show up as your true, authentic self, curse words and all. Because what I noticed during that time was, whether I wanted them to or not, my priorities had to shift. I knew there was no going back. I had to make decisions that were hard, also sensible, painful, but incredibly practical. And while I may have been more comfortable in my old clothes, I had now outgrown that suit. And though I didn't see it at the time, it was good. At the time, I distinctly remember becoming aware of this change in me on a couple of different occasions, simply because of my response to different situations and the feelings of peace I had afterwards. I also started remembering glimpses of this person during different seasons of my past that were also difficult. And this confirmed for me that it was right and that it would be the way forward. I'd like to close with this powerful truth. We are all built to handle exactly the situations that come before us. There is no one in this world inherently better than you. That skill set or talent you wish you possessed, that only means it's time for you to invest in yourself to learn it. You were built for a purpose. You were built for a reason. You were not built for everything, or even everyone. Embrace your talents and find that one fear that's keeping you from living a life by design. This doesn't have to mean the ultimate greatness or perfection or anything more simply than the life you desire. If your desire is to figure out how to bake the perfect sourdough bread, though, please sign me up for the monthly subscription because I love sourdough and that stuff is hard to make. If that is what fulfills you, then that is what you do. Don't care what anybody thinks of it. It doesn't matter. All that matters is you get to do what you love. It can be simple or it can be complex. You decide. You know, I remember the years I spent riding a motorcycle. I loved to ride. But even more so, I loved how the sheer experience forced me to challenge myself in a new way every time I got on that bike. I was grateful for it. I felt it made me stronger, more courageous. I was pushing my own boundaries and limiting beliefs. That spirit of intentional challenge and pushing your own limits, not out of a need to prove something to others, but to experience personal growth, that is the essence of the effort factor. Absolutely. Now let's talk about that person over there in the corner office, or the mega agent, the famous podcasters, or the talented DIYers. Those people are no better than you. They don't possess any extra attributes, gifts, or connections that aren't available to you too. They aren't more special. The only thing they did was figure out what fears they needed to conquer. And then they developed their own effort factor over those fears. That is it, and that is all. With that said, I encourage you to pick just one fear that is keeping you from being that person you so admire and aspire to be. I know I've learned so much over the last few years. I am a walking, talking billboard for a handful of different things I've been forced to learn. And as it relates to deciding which ones you need to conquer, I'm here to tell you, you don't have to conquer them all, and you probably should not conquer them all. Seek some leverage instead. If you are looking for the complexities of something like becoming a mega agent, you're catapulting yourself beyond the 1%. And because your body is only human, keep tabs on it. Listen to it. But in the meantime, find your one thing, hone your effort factor, and live your life by design. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's edition of the Savvy Leader Podcast. We were so glad to have you. Be sure to check out the SavvyLeadersLounge.com for further inspiration and resources to help you be the savvy leader you are always meant to be. See you next time.